So here we were at output devices. These are the output devices. Those devices which give us some output. Okay, just a second, students. Yes, so these are certain devices which give output, that which give some results. So you can see in the images also, monitor, printer, plotter, speakers, these all are examples of output devices. So now it should not be a problem for you all, right, to understand the difference between input and output. Then next is the CPU. Now CPU is neither an input device nor an output device, students. Okay, it has three basic units: ALU, CU and MU, that is memory unit. So arithmetic and logic unit, what is the task of the arithmetic and logic unit? Who will give me the answer? Raise your hand, students. It's a revision session going on, right? Okay, yes, Shlok.
Ma'am, arithmetic and logic unit carries out all the arithmetic and logical operations such as plus, minus, greater than, equal to, etc.
As well as logical operations, not only arithmetic operations. These are the arithmetic operations. Wait a second. When I talk about arithmetic operations, these are addition, subtraction, multiplication, division, modulus, that is remainder operation. Okay, if you remember this, this is the remainder operation. That is, it is also used to divide two numbers, but it returns the remainder. So these are arithmetic operations. Less than, greater than, these fall under relational operators. Although these are also handled by the ALU, but they come under logical operations. Okay. That is taking decisions based on conditions. Taking decisions based on condition, like if age is greater than 18, then declare that the person is eligible for voting, and if he is not, then else not eligible. Understood? So taking a decision based on a particular condition, that is also the work of your ALU. Next is CU, that is control unit. What is the task of a control unit? Raise your hands. What is the task of a control unit?
Control the flow and manipulate the instruction and data.
Yes, very good. Control the flow of execution. Control unit controls the flow of execution of statements in a program, and it also controls data, where data has to be saved, where data has to be, from where data has to be extracted. Understood? When you are taking input from the user console, that is from the keyboard, data has to be saved somewhere. Like you write a equals int input, enter a number. So you write this. Okay. So what is happening in this statement? Some input is being asked from the user. You ask some input from the user. You will be using what? You will be using a keyboard. So user will enter something, and that has to be saved in a variable. That means some memory space has to be allocated to save that number, and this variable will act as a label which is which will point to this variable. Traditional programming languages other than Python, that area itself will be named as a and the variable will be stored. Understood? So this is what, where the data has to be stored, from where the data is coming and where it has to go, everything is decided by the control unit. Later on, when you have asked for a variable, for a value b also, you write c equals to a plus b. So now this a plus b will be performed by which device? Question is open to anyone, you can answer. This A plus
ALU.
B, very good. It will be performed by the ALU, that is arithmetic and logic unit, and the result will be saved in C. So now again, this is which operation? Memory read or write operation? Which one? Memory read or memory write operation? Which one? भाई कैलकुलेट कर लिया, अब मुझे सी के अंदर डेटा को स्टोर करना है. दैट मीन्स मेमोरी में मुझे क्या करना है? राइट करना है. आई हैव टू परफॉर्म अ मेमोरी राइट ऑपरेशन. whenever you are saving something in the memory, by memory I mean RAM, whenever you are saving something in RAM, you are doing what? Write operation. And whenever you are writing something or extracting something from RAM or accessing something from RAM, you are doing which operation? Read operation. Got it? And you have memory registers also. Can anyone tell me what do you understand by registers?
Ma'am, they are small data holding places.
Yes, they are small memory devices or small memory cells which are used by your CPU for performing fast calculations. Okay, there are many registers which are used by the CPU, and those registers work very fast, and they are used for saving intermediate results of operations. Apart from this, arithmetic and logic unit performs all arithmetic operations, performs all logical operations. Control unit controls and guides the interpretation, flow, manipulation of all data and information. Sends control signals, performs program execution. Controls flow of data from input devices to memory and vice versa. So control unit is like the brain of CPU. It handles all the tasks, and it also uses one cycle for executing programs. Can anybody tell me what is that? What is the name of that cycle? Control unit follows this cycle.
Fetch and
Very
decode.
good, very good, very good. Fetch, decode, and execute cycle. This cycle is followed, or this cycle is worked out by your control unit for executing a program. What happens in this? The control unit takes up, it reads one instruction from the program, it decodes the instruction, carries out its execution, then moves on to the next instruction. Next is registers. They are small units of data holding places. Temporarily hold some important processing information during execution of programs. CPU may store in these registers any of the following: some part of data, some memory address, or some instruction. Okay, just take some time to read through these points. They are small memory holding places, and they are used for storing intermediate results of operations. Please note this also. Registers also store intermediate results of operations. That is, operations which generate some results which will be used again, which are not the final, which is not the final result, but this will be used for performing further operations. Okay, so they are also used to store intermediate results of operations. Just a second, just take some time to read through these points. Next, the memory, very main, the memory, also known as main memory or primary memory. Okay, somebody tell me main memory and primary memory. Sorry, primary memory consists of
RAM and ROM.
RAM and ROM.
very good, RAM and ROM. RAM stands for random access memory. ROM stands for
read-only memory.
very good, read-only memory. Okay, we will be seeing this in detail now. Now you can see over here a diagram which consists of CPU, a program counter. Students, please make a note. Program counter is a special register. Program, wait a second. Program counter is a CPU register which holds the address of the next instruction to be executed by the CPU. Take a note of this point in your copy. Program counter is a CPU register which holds the address of the next instruction to be executed by the CPU in a particular program, in a specific program. So while a program is being executed, you all know that programs are groups of statements. They are a collection of instructions which we give to the CPU to perform some task. Okay, so that is the reason why a program counter will always point to the next instruction which is to be executed. The moment one instruction is fetched by the control unit, immediately program counter will increment and it will start pointing to the next instruction. Okay, remember this. Have you all written this? What is a program counter? Please, whatever I am writing here, please go on writing that in your copy also. These are like certain points, okay, which we might not have discussed during the class, but right now when you are getting it, please note it down, okay? I will better send this to you people. The chat application here. Yes, everybody please look your chat application. I have sent the answer. Did you get this, everyone? Can note this down or save it, okay? So now you can see program counter, it stores, now it also stores something. What is this? This is the address of the next instruction which is to be executed. Now everything is stored where? In RAM. So now this program counter, it is performing a read operation, address for reading or writing data. So this address is being sent to the memory to fetch the actual data bits which correspond to the instruction. Okay, ये instruction का address है. This is the address of the instruction. और यहाँ पे क्या stored है? Instruction stored है. तो हमें instruction को extract करना है. ओके, तो हम क्या करेंगे? इसका एड्रेस देंगे तो हमें उसका क्या मिलेगा? इंस्ट्रक्शन मिल जाएगा. सो डेटा फ्रॉम द मेमोरी, नाउ इट इज फेच्ड फ्रॉम देयर एंड इट गोज टू द CPU. Okay, data to memory. If I have to save something to the memory, then CPU will send that data to the memory. So sending the data to the memory will be what? Memory write operation, and extracting data from memory will be what? Memory read operation. So it's like a predefined workspace, temporarily stores information and data. Each memory location has a unique memory address. It is volatile. Memory is divided into cells. Each cell is further broken into bits. A bit is a binary digit, that is 0 or 1. Number of bits equals data or instructions. So please make a note of these points over here. Memory is divided into cells. Each cell is further broken into bits. A bit is a binary digit and number of bits. Just read through these points once. I hope you have read through the points. Now next. So you can see one memory cell over here. This is one memory cell, and a cell is divided into how many bits? 8-bit locations. So 1 bit is equals to 0 or 1. 1 byte equals 8 bits. 1 KB equals 2 raised to the power 10 or 1024 bytes. 1 MB equals 2 raised to the power 10 or 1024 kilobytes. 1 GB equals 2 raised to the power 10 MB. Now students, there was a question in the exam which I had given you. If you remember that, I had given you a question, and that question was, one GB equals how many bytes? So how would you calculate this? Firstly, 1 GB equals how many MB? Tell me.
1000.
Look at this. Look at this table. 1024, right?
1024 or
And in the
250.
options, you had something like this: 2 raised to the power 10, 2 raised to the
2
power
power 10.
20, 2 raised to the power 30, and so on, right? So now you can take it as 2 raised to the power 10 MB, that is 1 GB. Okay. Now convert this 2 raised to the power 10 MB into kilobytes. You will again multiply it by 2 raised to the power 10. That will give you how much? The value in kilobytes. That is 2 raised to the power 20 KB you will get, right? And then further multiplied by 2 raised to the power 10. That is for your bytes. So you will get at the end 2 raised to the power 30 bytes. So your answer would be, these were the 4 options. This was your correct answer in that. So take a look at this. After gigabyte, you have terabyte, petabyte, exabyte, and then zettabyte. Parts of main memory we have already seen. Memory cells can be accessed for information transfer from any desired location. Process of locating a word in the memory is the same. You try to locate a word or save a word anywhere in the memory, the amount of time required would be the same. That is why it is random access memory. Okay, I had also given you an example. If you have seen the old cassette recorder, have you ever seen the old audio cassettes which were played, which had 2 holes in them? Okay, and if you had to, have you seen that or not? Tell me. Anybody who has seen that audio tape recorder? Or maybe I'll show you the image, then only you'll understand. Cassette. Okay. Something like this. Have you seen this, students?
Yes, ma'am.
Have you used it anytime?
No, ma'am, only see.
Visible.
So this type of a cassette tape recorder was used in olden days, okay, specifically in the 80s and 90s in those days, and I have also used it a lot. I had a Walkman which used this cassette tape recorder, and if I had to listen to my favorite song, I would have to either forward or rewind. Why? Because this was a sequential device, okay, sequential device. Sequential device means if you have some records, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and so on, and you want to access the 4th record, you would have to traverse all the previous records, 1 also, 2 also, 3 also, and then you will reach the 4th record. So this is what, the further the record, the more time it needs. Understood? And if you want to read the last record, it will need a lot of time because all the previous records before that will have to be read first. Suppose you have 50 records. So, and you want to access the 48th record, then you will have to traverse all the records from 1 to 47 to reach the 48th record. Okay, so that is the reason why those are sequential memory devices. But here RAM is a random access device. Random access means just provide the address and get the data. Now, it doesn't matter where the data is saved in the memory, but the amount of time which would be required to access data would be the same from everywhere. Okay. Requires equal amount of memory, hence the name random access. Collection of storage cells together with associated circuits, transfer information in and out of storage, stores binary information in the group of bits called words. So binary information is stored in the form of a group of bits known as words. A word is an entity of bits that move in and out of storage as a unit. Please make a note of this point, everyone. These 2 points. A memory word is a group of ones and zeros and may represent a number, an instruction code, one or more alphanumeric characters, or any other binary coded information. Just read through these points. Take some time to read through these points, students. Most computer memories use words whose number of bits is a multiple of 8. Why? We would be first having 8 bits. Normally, we know that 1 byte equals how many bits? 8 bits. Okay. That is something like this. So this is a collection of how many? 8 bits. Okay. Apart from this, the minimum requirement is 8 bits. Minimum requirement is 8 bits, but you can increase the word size to add 1 more byte. So this becomes 1 bit, 1 byte, and this also becomes 1 byte. So it makes 2 bytes, and 1 word consists of 2 bytes. Sometimes 1 word may consist of 1 byte. Sometimes it may consist of 2 bytes. Sometimes it may consist of 4 bytes. If I consider, and sometimes it may also consider 3 bytes. 1 second. Yes, it may also consider 3 bytes. So it's like this. Example, 16-bit word is of 2 bytes, 32-bit word is of 4 bytes. Now the thing is, why mostly 3 bytes is not used? Because we also want it to be we want the number of bits to be a power of 2. 2 raised to the power a, something of 2 raised to the power a. So 1 byte, that is 8 bits, is already 2 cube. Okay, 2 bytes, that means 16 bits, 2 raised to the power 4. But when I consider 3 bytes, 3 8s are 24. 24 is not a power of 2. Okay, so we cannot consider 3 bytes. It always multiplies. Then you can also double this. 16 plus 16, that is 32 bits, which is again a power of 2. So it should be a power of 2 and a multiple of 8. And multiple of 8. Got it? That is how word works. The internal structure of a memory unit is specified by the number of words it contains and the number of bits in each word. So you can check it over here. We had discussed this in detail. Please watch the previous videos which were there. Okay. because I'm going to move a little faster today. So we have n data input lines. So n data input lines, they represent n bits per word. K address lines, that is, you may have how many, if one address is used, suppose k bits are used to represent one address. If I take 8 bits, so you may take 8 bits to represent one address. Here one address is being represented by what? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. 16 bits are used to represent what? One address. Understood? So that means it makes 16 address lines. Understood? And 2 raised to the power k, 2 raised to the power 16, what will it be? 65,536 words. That is, total size of your memory will be 65,536 words. Depending upon the number of bits per word, you will be dividing this into memory. So we will not go into the details of it. Now you can perform read and write operation when you are saving something. That means a read of, sorry, when you are extracting something from this, when some output is coming out, that is your read operation. And where some input is going inside it, it is your write operation. Okay. The process of locating a word in memory is the same and requires an equal amount of time no matter where the cells are located physically in the memory, thus the name random access. Communication between a memory and its environment is achieved through data input and output lines, address selection lines, control lines that specify the direction of transfer. So data input and output lines, this is what the end data input and output lines. That is, if I refer to this, it would be these, the end data input lines and end data output lines. These are for sending and receiving data, right? Second is address lines, which are used to send the address. I need to read the data, but I don't know where it is stored in the memory. Is it going to work? No. If I have to read something from the memory, CPU has to provide its address where that particular data is saved in the memory. And if something is to be written, then also address has to be specified कि कहाँ पे write करना है, memory में कहाँ पर data को store करना है, and control lines, that is read or write, which operation is being performed. If it's a read operation, that means some output has to come out. If it is a write operation, that means something has to be saved in the memory. So take a look and just remember these 3 points. This represents the K address lines, and control lines refer to read or write. Next is types of RAM. We have dynamic RAM and static RAM. Dynamic RAM consists of a transistor and capacitor. They can store an electric charge. Depending upon the switching action of the transistor, capacitor either contains no charge, which represents 0 bit, or holds some charge, which represents 1 bit. Provides volatile storage. Contents are lost in the event of power failure. And also please note down one more thing for dynamic RAM. It has to be refreshed multiple times per second, because the charge, the capacitor loses the charge over a period of time, or very quickly if it is not refreshed again. So that is why it needs to be refreshed. Okay. Contents are lost in the event of power failure. The amount of time taken to produce data required from memory from the start of access until the availability of data is called memory access time. That is the time from when you provided the address of the data which is to be read from the memory till the time data is produced. That time is known as memory access time. That is, this is the time when it started. Okay, that is, you gave the address of data is provided, right, till the time data is read. So this whole time is known as what? Memory access time. It is abbreviated as TAC. Today's DRAM chips, that is dynamic RAM chips, have access times ranging from 20 to 70 nanoseconds, which is very fast. Storage capacity, only one transistor and one capacitor per bit can pack a large number of cells within the chip compared to SRAM. Tens to hundreds of GB. Okay. DRAM refreshing, capacitor loses charge over a period of time, retains data for barely a thousandth of a second. Refresh is to be done 1,000 times per second. Please read through these points. Take some time to read through these points.
What is the meaning of line refresh 1,000 times per second?
See, you can see this point that capacitor, it loses the charge. It's because of the charge that a data is stored. Some charge means 1 bit, zero charge means 0 bit. Okay, so if it is like some data has to be saved, in the capacitor. So over a period of time, what happens, that capacitor loses the charge, that is, it won't have any charge. So the bit which we want to represent will be gone. So that is why it needs to be refreshed, that is supplied with electricity to be refreshed multiple times in a second, so that that charge is maintained. That is why it is a volatile memory. Although static RAM is also a volatile memory, but sometimes it can save the charge for a longer period of time, and hence it is being heavily used in not only creating cache memory, but it is also being used in creating your SSD hard drives, that is solid state hard drives. So this is this particular slide is all about your DRAM, dynamic RAM, which is used for making your RAM chips. Okay, the RAM which we use in our computer. Next is the static RAM. It is costlier as compared to dynamic RAM because it is even better. It stores the charge even without being refreshed, doesn't need any special regenerator circuits. Special regenerator circuit is needed for refreshing your RAM. We are not going to study about what regenerator circuit is used. Please note this down. Special regenerator circuits are used to refresh the capacitor to store data. Okay, that is, these regenerator circuits will keep refreshing 1,000 times per second, and it will enable the DRAM to save the data. It will enable the capacitor to save the data for some time. But static RAMs don't need any special regenerator circuits. They are volatile as long as power is supplied. No special regenerator circuits are needed to retain stored data. Internal flip-flops are used to store binary data. Flip-flop is a special kind of a circuit. When you study computer science in detail in future, you will be studying a subject named digital computer organization or computer architecture. In that, you will study circuits. So in that, you will be studying about flip-flops. Right now, for your information, flip-flops are special circuits which are capable of storing only 1 bit of data. Okay. Information remains valid as long as power is supplied to the unit, takes up more space than DRAM, faster access time about 10 nanoseconds, and hence it is used for cache memory. Okay, some modern, you can say, if you keep in touch with the latest technologies, today's gaming laptops, they come with around the best form of cache memory, which is about 4 MB or 6 MB, which is a lot. अगर इतना cache memory आपके system में है, means your system is going to work very fast. Okay, usually what is the task of a cache memory? Cache memory stores all the recent applications. Recently accessed applications are stored in cache memory. Got it? So what happens is when you are opening a software for a very first time, it will open, it will take a long time to open, right? But next time when you close it and switch to some other work, and then again you open that same software, it will take very less time as compared to the first time when it opened. That is because it is stored in the cache memory. If not the whole application, but at least some part of the application will be stored in the cache memory. So because it is there in the cache memory, hence your application will open very fast. Next is read-only memory or ROM. It performs read operation only. There is no write capability. Why? Because ROM means only the manufacturer of the circuit is going to embed the instructions right at the time of manufacturing, so that the users or the normal users like you and me, we do not change anything in this, because normally these ROMs contain important instructions like ROM BIOS, basic input output system, which is a small program basic input output system, which is a small program, or we can say it is a diagnostic program. Did I write the spelling correctly? No. I think my diagnostic spelling is wrong. Can anybody tell me the correct spelling? Is this the correct spelling? Let me check. Yes, no, this is not the correct spelling. This O will not be there. Okay, so it's a diagnostic program. What this diagnostic program does is it performs system check, a thorough system check. It checks all the resources of the computer, and it also loads the kernel of your operating system. Kernel of your operating system, which is the central and main part of your operating system, into the memory, hands over all the tasks to the kernel, and then it leaves. Okay, so BIOS is what? It is a kind of a program which does all these diagnostic activities, and it helps in the booting of your computer, which is a very important task to be done. And if suppose we make any changes in the ROM BIOS, then our system might not start the next time. So that is why all this program is embedded into the ROM right at the time of its manufacture, and we cannot change it, but we can perform read operation from there. That's why no write capability. It is non-volatile. It remains permanently stored there, used in ROM BIOS, a monitor program for controlling the PC. There are three types of ROM. Make a note: PROM, EPROM, EEPROM. Now, one by one, you will give me the full forms. What is the full form of PROM?
Programmable read-only memory.
Very good. It's programmable read-only memory. Something is not working. Yes. PROM stands for programmable read-only memory. M should be capital. Next is EPROM. What is the full form of EPROM?
Erasable programmable read-only memory.
Yes, erasable. You can also say in short PROM. Erasable PROM or erasable programmable read-only memory. EEPROM.
Electrically erasable programmable read-only memory.
Yes, I think only one student is there in the class who is answering all the questions. Electrically erasable programmable read-only memory. Let's see them in detail now. So PROM, it can be programmed to record information, and you can see this special device which is a PROM programmer, which is used for reprogramming PROM. So it uses a PROM programmer. Once chip is programmed, recorded information cannot be changed. So this is what this has: no erasing capability. Now, such kind of PROMs, only the chip would be available in the market, and you should also have a PROM programmer. Using that, you can yourself program it, but once programmed, it cannot be changed. Next is EPROM. This is erasable programmable read-only memory. It can be erased, can be reprogrammed. You can see a software, a special software known as, its name is something like Prog16W Programmer. So this is used for programming your EPROM. Uses a special PROM program facility. So this is a special programmer which is used for programming EPROM. And it basically uses UV light. It exposes the chip to ultraviolet light to program it, to erase all the previous contents and rewrite it. Next is EEPROM. It is known as electrically erasable PROM, programmed and erased by electrical signals. So again, you can see a new device which uses electrical signals to erase the content and rewrite it. Information can be retained for many years without power supply. Can be used as a backup for RAM. Next is auxiliary storage, that is secondary storage devices. So far we studied about primary storage, without which your computer cannot work. Okay. Next we come to auxiliary storage. Now, of course, we need to save data permanently on the computer. In olden days, when we used monochrome computers, those computers didn't come with a hard disk. We used a floppy disk. Everything was to be saved on a floppy disk, and even we had a bootable floppy disk which was inserted into the CPU, and only once it was inserted, then you would get the operating system, which was usually DOS, that is disk operating system. Then you work on DOS, you save your program, and whatever you save, it would be saved in your floppy disk only. Okay, so we have reached the of secondary storage. Sorry, students, the signal was lost because of some problem. Yes, so we'll end the class over here only, and next we will start with auxiliary storage. So after this class, I think you have your first unit test, so please prepare well for it. And tomorrow again you will have a test. Okay, you may have a small test today in the evening also. I'll let you know whenever it is, right? So tomorrow be ready for a test. Tomorrow definitely there is going to be a test. Okay, thank you everyone.